The broadcast industry is changing, and my dad and I visited NAB 2026 to find out more. NAB stands for National Association of Broadcasters, and their biggest conference every year is in Las Vegas. Dad, you've been to over 30 of these, so I guess what's the main trend that you see this year as a radio engineer?
Well, it was great to see the radio and TV people together again, a lot closer than they were the last few years because of the construction at the hall, but it was good because the bulk of the space now used in the whole convention center includes a lot of things from broadcast to content creators to podcast.
And a lot of the gear and tech that we saw is like things that everybody uses, not just radio and TV.
It is. It's a bigger thing now. But radio and TV are a smaller part of it.
Well, I think the best way to jump into this video is to talk about a few of the main things that we saw at the show. And for me, the biggest one that I saw and was talking to people about was ATSC3 and the tech that it can enable. Some cool things like BPS. So they had a few different kind of islands in the show about ATSC3, and basically a quick overview. Right now in the US we have ATSC or ATSC1 that gives you HD video, which is usually like 1080i over the airwaves. It's OTA TV. And for me at home, what that means is I have an HD home run that can receive video, and I can record shows or watch shows through an iPad or something like that without any internet connection at all. And that's what I use it for, is like in emergency situations, internet might be down and I can see the local forecast or something like that. ATSC3 is supposed to add on features like 4K or IP streaming on the side to your TV, which is weird because that would require internet, which is totally against what I need. One cool technology that I have seen last year and this year, and I've been talking to people in the industry about it, is BPS, or the Broadcast Positioning System. Something that would supplement GPS or be even a GPS replacement for people, because TV transmitters give you so much more power than the GPS satellites can.
Yeah.
So it's harder for people to jam that. It could give you even more precise location with multiple towers in your city. But when I was talking to them, I talked to Avatech and some other companies about it. It seems like right now it's kind of like everybody's on a treadmill. You're moving, but you're staying in one place.
Definitely.
The industry has kind of parked itself and is waiting for adoption, but it's a chicken and egg situation. Like a consumer like me is looking at it like, I don't want to spend $60 or $200 or whatever to see the same thing, just maybe slightly better, or in most cases the exact same signal, just over ATSC3 with an extra box on my TV. A lot of people seem to put some hope that the FCC might mandate that everybody moves to it, because if that happens, you have to.
Well, it's like in HD radio in cars. Never was a mandate, and it's now in like 68% of all the cars
Of
made.
new cars.
Of new cars.
I don't have a car that has
But
that.
that was
I never have.
Right, but that was without a mandate. With a mandate, it would be in 100%. So those are the kind of things where it's like, well, ATSC3 was a mandate, and we all went through it. We all got those boxes. So
ATSC1 was
ATSC1. So without the mandate, are people going to change?
Yeah.
And is this a thing that's so important that it should be mandated?
Yeah, and I think one of the big sticky points for a lot of people, at least on the consumer side, is that ATSC3 has optional DRM. But we know what happens when someone has the ability to put DRM into something. It ends
my
up
concern
being
face there. That's my face of concern on that. So
I think we'll be covering that more later this year, because it's an industry-wide challenge, and you've seen a lot with HD radio in some places coming and going. So we'll get back to you on that, but it was a big thing at the show this year.
So there are definitely some long-term trends in the industry, the radio and television industries, and it mainly involves like software everywhere. Even sometimes no studios now. We got in the cloud everything, and you've got software that you can put in box A, B, or C. A lot of stuff can be in a console. The console can be virtualized on the air. What's the guy actually touching? All these things are being decided now, and there's a ton of options, and all of them are going to increase the efficiencies. I think you're going to get efficiencies. And the only thing it's going to cost you is you're going to not own much. You're going to be doing software contracts. But anyway, so all the items, mic processing, AGC, compression limiting, artist title data, and maybe even now EAS being incorporated into some device, whether it's at a transmitter site or a studio site, or it's all in the cloud. And then another big question, being local, does it matter? It seems like it
does to me.
It does to me too. Like, it doesn't matter if it's my soccer team playing. I'd like a local announcer with local insight. My news people, even the types of music per city it's not exactly the same. So the flavor of a city for radio, I think it's really important. TV, it's really important, especially in the news things. But so yeah, being local doesn't matter. I would say as a consumer, yes. But what I'm seeing as the owner side, I would say no.
You told me, you told a couple of us at the show.
Yeah, I have a law.
If I have one law that I could sneak into the FCC, it would be.
If Mr. Trump or what the head of the FCC, if they will allow me one law in my lifetime, it would be if you own a radio station, you have to care about radio.
It feels like a lot of ownership groups don't. They're kind of an amorphous blob that doesn't care about that.
Yeah, and it's like I didn't care about radio. If you had a guy in your radio division that just cared about radio. Because radio is not streaming, it's not YouTube, it's not any of that. Like, you just deeply have to care about radio.
Now, somebody who does care a lot because they share our name, well, most of our name, they cut off one of the E's. We saw this truck from Girling and Associates.
Yeah.
Now, last year we saw Girling and Associates, but they were like way in the back corner somewhere, and they had a STEM truck. This year, they partnered up with Ross, and they had this thing called the Hypermax 1 that showed off all the latest production gear from Ross. And we're not deep in the video world side of things, but we both walked through the truck separately, and because we had scheduling things. But I was reminded when we took the tour of the 45 Flex truck at a Blues game earlier this year, and it was interesting comparing that truck, which was one of the first digital production trucks, to this one, which is like the premium this year version.
It was sweet.
And there were a few things that I noticed in here. One was that they had Telestream master PTP clocks, which was something I didn't know Telestream made them. And that's important for ST2110 and modern production timing for cameras and gear. They also had a bunch of Ubiquiti switches all over the place. And I think that's interesting to me because I know Ubiquiti's not been known for PTP support on their switches, but maybe that's something that they're adding in.
And I did not notice the PTP switches of anything.
That's all I look for.
There was lots of stuff to see in that truck.
Another thing that I saw was I looked specifically at the back where they connect everything up to the patch bay in a stadium or something, and I noticed that there was all fiber, 100% fiber. There were none of those giant analog connectors. But you had talked to somebody there and said, like, what if you do come up to a stadium that has all the old stuff? He said basically they had like breakout boxes.
Yeah,
like fiber into a box, and then you have all the analog connections.
Yeah, broken out at the connection in the stadium or wherever they are, where they pick up their analog.
So it seems like that could make cabling a lot easier if you just had 2 or 3 fibers for redundancy instead of having to do all those things. But those trucks are amazing pieces of technology.
We also saw Sage, the EAS boxes, which I have like 20 of them. Yeah. We saw they were there with a Raspberry Pi little tiny box
Compute Module 4
that ran the Sage software for EAS. And virtualizing it, Nautel talked about it. They were talking about putting in an audio processor with Orban. But EAS is a big deal. Like it's, if you get it wrong, people can die. So that's
so a big change like that, going from these big boxes with the ins and outs and the tuners and all that.
Right.
That's a big change.
And there's some things we all need to think about, you know, that the buttons people are used to hitting and the codes and remote access, all those kind of things when the studio's not there. So this little box probably won't pass the FCC's approval without some rule changes, and we'll see.
I will run through a few of the other highlights that I had when I was walking on the show floor. One of them was something you had told me about, the Logitech JetFlex, and not Logitech like the mouse company, but Logitech with a K. Yeah. And this was a full virtual console. Like you can have a full audio console running in through this thing using digital audio, AES-67 or Ravenna Livewire or whatever those things are. But it was all running on a Raspberry Pi.
Raspberry Pi.
So I looked in the back and I'm like, oh, that's a Raspberry Pi in there. So that was kind of cool to see.
Yeah, and it popped too. This display popped nicely. All the movement was good.
It's like a Pi 5 has enough power now to run a whole thing like that. And it's a lot cheaper, would you say, than some of the other solutions out there?
It's a lot less expensive.
Another thing, one of the engineers on the floor was like, hey, have you seen this thing? And we were like, no, we haven't. And where is it? So we walked back and found this Aronia spectrum analyzer. And you know, we do a lot of SDR things, usually with much smaller, cheaper dongles. But this was a box that actually uses, I think it's USB 3.2 or something like that. It needs a lot of bandwidth and it needs a lot of power, so you can plug it into a Thunderbolt port and you get power and bandwidth through that one wire to do some pretty cool stuff, like 9 kilohertz to what, 6 gigahertz?
6 gigahertz, and you could get it up to 8.
Yeah, you could get it up higher and you could get it lower. It was pretty cool. And when I saw that, I saw this demo with all these screens folded out from the laptop, and I'm like, that's pretty cool. But now I know this is the reason that Dell 52-inch display exists, the one that I reviewed on Level 2 Jeff.
I've got to get a hold of that box, that hardware box, and they give you software. The software comes with it.
Yeah.
And the software had a lot of interesting looking settings, which you would have to, it would take days of playing.
Yeah,
with
we were like, where's FM? And it's like way over here. And where's this? It's way over there.
Yeah.
But it's like once you get your presets set up, it seems like it'd be pretty powerful. I also noticed that they had some wacky antennas sitting out there too. So
they did. They had some calibrated antennas for certain applications. So that was pretty cool.
I didn't see an AM antenna there.
You did not see an AM antenna in that group.
But you already have a couple of those.
Right.
So
But the 6-arm guy had AM antenna.
I also spent some time talking to Orban about the 3 Raspberry Pis that they have inside their Optimod audio processor, and I also talked to Nobu from YY Stamp about some picosecond wireless timing signals that they were using for cameras at the Meinberg booth. But I'm going to cover those more on my Level 2 Jeff channel, so go subscribe to that channel if you want to see those. But Dad, what were some other things that you saw more of that I might have just missed out on or haven't mentioned yet?
Well, for a radio guy, it was kind of odd, but I totally saw the Blackmagic world 100 gig all over the place. And it's like 100 gig. Yeah, switches here and there.
100 megabits.
I have 100 megabit stuff in my my home lab, but it's like 100 gigs everywhere, cameras and switches and all that stuff. So that was pretty cool. Pretty much, seeing that as like, oh, duh, whatever. It looked like a no-brainer project. So that was pretty cool. The other thing that you couldn't miss if you walked around enough was audio and video collaboration systems, which most of them were magic over the internet. Your company to their company, your friend to his friend to this, and all these projects, audio, video, 4K, like there's solutions for all of that.
You want to be in a 4K broadcast, just pop out your iPhone and hold it up and you're in.
Exactly. There were all kinds of those solutions. So that is an outflow from natural progression, and then COVID made everybody think hard about it, and we've got some good solutions. And then we met Jason from 6-arms, and that one I was totally interested in.
From Australia.
He is from Australia too, which we actually want to go there. So, but anyway, 6-arms and Jason, the pattern, the ability to fly a drone and see a pattern, both the circular pattern, but the drone can fly higher, lower, it can run a pattern straight up and down, it can give you an AM tilt of your pattern. I mean, all kinds of things that you could think of. So, I would love him to send an old set to me when he gets his new thing designed.
Or hey, fly out here and we can...
Yeah, we fly out here, we'll play with it and do a video on it. Because
it's interesting because you see the manufacturer and the guy doing the math. It's like, here's your chart. It's like, well, but what is it really?
Yeah.
And how is that affected by a new building that's being built down the road?
Yeah, and I bet I wasn't the only engineer who took the newest drone they could get and tried to strip out of SDRs and Raspberry Pis to make it light enough to fly up and see if you could measure a signal with a standard, unipole or something.
He had a lot of stuff with the antenna system and the attenuation and stuff.
He had calibrated antennas, attenuators on the input.
When you're flying it right in front of a 10 kilowatt or 100 kilowatt, that can cause problems.
Yeah, and I noticed you guys talked a bit about his little box because he's got some kind of processor.
He has a Latte Panda in there. Not a Raspberry Pi, but it's still cool.
Yep, and all right, as most of you are not that concerned about satellites, I don't think, but satellites have been a bread and butter for lots of distribution in radio and television for 30, 40, 50 years, probably back when the space started, we started getting serious in space exploration. And now it's like the satellites are losing the spectrum to 5G and other cell services and who knows what else. But so they're getting squeezed. And so there was a lot of new tech that goes over the internet, connects the boxes, and basically duplicates what the satellite system did. But again, it's a system. The satellite was easy. You went up and you came down, you had to protect here, protect there, you're done. And now in the IP world, it's a different game for a lot of places, especially the smaller stations that use satellite. That's a game changer for them. So they'll be watching out that. So somewhere in the next 4 or 5 years, we're going to have a totally different picture, it looks like.
Something else I saw was there were a lot of little studio setups. And I'm thinking here too, like I have a studio. I never paid contractors and things to build a giant radio studio, but you used to do that all over the US. And what did you see with that at the
the studio complexity, a lot of it is gone. And the difference between what they are doing and can do at high school, a podcast studio, and an on-air radio station is the smallest. It's unbelievable how small that gap is. And even sports production is getting into the high schools at a level that's unbelievable. And I was kind of surprised that AM Tech had a couple of really nice new pieces of gear for AM transmitters.
You mean AM, that dying?
The one that we don't know what's happening. Where are you? But BE has a product they call AMX, and it's 5 kilowatts and 5 rack units. And you could ship it. You could ship a 5 kilowatt AM transmitter by FedEx or UPS.
The last one I saw, it was like 300 watts or 500 watts, but you're saying 5 kilowatts.
5 kilowatts, yeah. So that's in there. They say they're using this MOSFET. It's what is it? A silicon carbide MOSFET that's been used in cars. So that electric cars.
Oh, EVs.
EVs. So that's cool. Like that just makes it cool.
So I guess part of that might be like now that there's a bigger market, it's easier to get them for their transmitters.
Yeah. Well, transmitters, no matter what, like they age out and then you replace them. So these new transmitters it's great that they're still designing AM transmitters and looking for targets like this, because even this one has a fast frequency change. Instead of going in and remounting components and tuning and having expensive equipment to maybe do it, they have a plug and play filter that they put in, and then you spend about 20-30 minutes tweaking it, and then you're on a new frequency.
So you don't have to drive to a tower site, get the transmitter, put it back up in, bring it back, ship it to them, ship it back, bring it back out.
Yep, none of that kind of stuff. So it's cool. It just was fun to see. And then Nautel also had a AM transmitter that was new there, 2.5 kilowatt, their latest one, up to 2.5 kilowatts in a rack-mounted unit. And of course, it has their great interface. We love that interface.
Those are the things that we saw on the show floor, but it was a huge space. All 3 of the main halls were open, and I didn't get through all of it. But I tried to walk up and down most aisles. But we definitely missed some things. So if there was something cool that we missed, let us know in the comments.
Yeah, and just to tell all of you guys who haven't been to conventions and other types of meeting and group meetings, it's a great source of friendships. It's a great source of knowledge, getting tips, asking questions, getting feedback. There's a lot of ways to do that, including email, but that in-person stuff is great.
Yeah, and I think you recorded a few conversations, so we might make a little video kind of covering that aspect of things too.
Yeah.
So subscribe for that.